Good day, and welcome to today's webinar topic, Simplify Your Submission Review Process with an Anywhere, Anytime eCTD Viewer, presented by Ryan Lancey, Director of Product Management at Certara. So let's get right into the webinar logistics for today. So just as a reminder, this will be a 30-minute webinar, and you have all been muted, and thus to ask any questions during the webinar, please use the questions panel at the right of your screen. We will address as many questions as possible at the end of the webinar. And just a quick overview of who is Certara. We do see a lot of people that are current customers of Certara, as well as some of you that may be new to Certara. So let's just take one moment to just introduce who we are. So Certara is the global leader in model-informed drug development. Our software and services span across clinical pharmacology, regulatory science solutions, biosimulation and discovery informatics software, and market access solutions. Our clients include 1,650 global biopharmaceutical companies, leading academic institutions, and key regulatory agencies across 61 countries. So before I hand it over to our presenter for today's webinar topic, I'd like to take this moment to introduce him. So Ryan Lancey, MSN, RN, PMP, Director of Product Management at Certara, has over 16 years of drug development experience across operations and technology. He is an experienced leader of international and matrix project and program management, clinical development systems, and process improvement. Ryan serves as the product owner for the GlobalSubmit eCTD software platform and driving the system development and roadmap planning. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and invite Ryan to begin today's presentation.
Great. Thank you, Danny. I appreciate the overview and introduction. So the agenda for my section that I'll be presenting will be an overview of our GlobalSubmit eCTD software. We'll discuss some of the challenges with reviewing eCTD submissions, some of the benefits of using a dedicated viewer for reviewing eCTD, and we'll do a brief demo of our WebReview eCTD viewer, and then we'll review some questions and answers. So, what is the GlobalSubmit eCTD software solution? We have three main functions within GlobalSubmit. The first is to publish. We use that software to create our submissions, and we do that in a compliant manner. We have the validate tool that will check for all of our errors. And we have review and WebReview, which we're going to be focusing on today, which allow you to quickly view and search across the submission. We have some folks on today's call, I assume, that are publishers, and we probably have some folks on today's call who are not publishers. So I'll try and make sure and give very general overview of the information so that you don't necessarily need to be in the know to understand what we're talking about. One of the things that's important, regardless of the role that you're in, is making sure that our eCTD submissions that we send in are not rejected for technical issues. So the validate piece of the tool is really important in ensuring that we are able to minimize the risk of that happening. Our software also gives the team that's working in the publishing role, the internal stakeholders and any external partners, what they need in order to be efficient with their publishing, their validating, and their review. So besides eliminating any unnecessary risk with issues that can be caught by validation, by providing the eCTD submission in a read-only format to your internal and external stakeholders, you can quickly gather feedback from them and incorporate it into your final submission without any risk of any accidental changes occurring with the final submission. So if you want to go to the next slide, Danny. So GlobalSubmit is used to process over 1.5 million regulatory submissions. We support the following regions. You can see them highlighted on the map. but those are US, Canada, EU, Switzerland, Australia, Japan. We are continuing to add new regions as they become available. We are working with some other regions that will soon become available. And we have regulatory experts that are constantly monitoring the global guidances to ensure that we remain compliant with upcoming changes to each region, as well as the new standards such as eCTD 4.0. So, as I'm sure you all know, reviewing your eCTD submissions is difficult, and sometimes it can be overwhelming. I feel like most folks that work in regulatory, you're spending a lot of your time trying to meet the goals of expediting your submission creation so that you can get to market quickly and sending those regulatory submissions in as quickly and accurately as possible. When you're rushing and you're under a time crunch and everything is urgent or emergent, it's very easy to make mistakes that make you go back to the drawing board and start over. We found that for folks that have a lot of stakeholders that are reviewing the content, it can add even more layers of complexity with gathering that feedback and making sure that that everyone's able to review easily and provide their feedback in a way that is not causing additional issues with maybe accidentally clicking somewhere and changing something, or rearranging files by accident. So by having a read-only viewer solution, you can gather that feedback and prevent any accidental changes or edits to the final publication. So it seems pretty simple, yet that critical review of the final submission can certainly cause delays, increase the risk of rejection, increase frustration, and increase overall cost to the organization if you have to keep going back and fixing small things like that. Next slide. So WebReview, it's an eCTD viewer that facilitates an efficient and dynamic review of your submissions through our web-hosted platform. It was built with the intent of being easy to use, simple, something that you can use across all of your stakeholders, whether they're internal or external, whether they are regulatory publishers or folks that might have just one section that you want their input on. So maybe manufacturing, your clinical development team, et cetera. They may want to take a look at and provide just feedback on one section. So being web-based, it's really easy to use. It's not a complicated navigation. We'll go through that when I do the demo. It's pretty simple to log in and review the submission. Because it's cloud-based and web-hosted, as long as you're using one of our supported browsers, there's nothing to install. It's a pretty turnkey solution. One of the other things that we pride ourselves on is that it is focused on opening these documents very quickly. So most of these submissions are, in the gigabyte range, thousands of pages. And to open those, in a traditional format can be a little bit of a delay, but as you'll see in our demo, it moves very quickly, and you're not sitting around waiting for pages to load. The interface allows for searching, so we can search for specific documents, and we can also search within documents, and we'll see that as well in the demo. And then training. So we provide training for all of our new customers to make sure that they're able to understand how to get the most out of the software when they start using it and how they can use it best within their organization. So with that, I'll go ahead and jump into the demo. All right, and everybody's able to see my screen, I hope?
Yes, we see your screen.
Excellent, thank you, Danny. So this is our demo environment. I'm gonna log in using my username and password. And here we are inside of WebReview. So you can see the applications that I have up on my screen. And we have the different headers across these different columns that allow us to sort for easy searching. We also have the ability to search for applications within the search window here. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to find one that I have chosen to use for today's demo. We see that quickly comes up. So I'm going to open that. You can see how quickly that opened up. So in the top blue bar here, we have the open applications, and then we see this is our new drug application that I just searched for. We can go back to where we were before by clicking here. Okay. In the info button here, we can see all of the application details. We have our help button here, and this is our logout button here. Okay. On the left-hand side, we have our tree view. So this is our origin view. This is the order in which it was created. We have our regulatory activities view. That's grouped by submission. We have our current view, which is all of the documents that have a life cycle of current, but this will not show any deleted files. And then we have our life cycle view. This is a cumulative view by module. It'll have all of the documents that are in the life cycle visible. So I think the best way to describe it is a 4D view. So it'll show you current and previous as well as any deleted or appended, all in the same view. So I'll leave it in this view because that'll allow us to have a little bit more context. Okay. All right. So when we select a section, we'll have an inventory pane on the right here. So we have this first section here and we see the cover letter. So I'm going to select the clinical section. Okay, do the clinical overview. Okay. So you'll see there are two versions of this document. See this one that has the U-turn looking symbol with the blue. That means that it has been replaced, and this is the current version, and this is the one that was replaced. Okay. We'll go into this section. Okay. All right. And again, in the lifecycle view, this is our original, and this is the one that has been appended. You can see the little green plus sign. Okay. Okay. And then here you can see an example of a file that's been deleted. So if we look at, let's take a look here. So here we can see the details of the file, and the associated metadata, and then we can see the life cycle. And we'll be able to see this on the tree view for each file, as well as within the inventory view. Go back up to this section. We have the ellipses next to the file. We can use this to go to the file. And that's how we would open it. Okay. We can also search for specific documents within the tree. So let's type in protocol. And here we can see all the results, the sections that contain protocol. We can also navigate specifically. Let's go to my existing protocol. Okay, now that document has over 2,000 pages and it opened in a matter of seconds. So that's what I was talking about before about how quickly things can load within WebReview. We can search within this document as well. So we can try, let's type the word clinical. And we can see how quickly it returns results within the document. And we can go specifically to a section and take a look at. Okay. Also have this side panel here. We can use that side panel to go to specific sections within the document, so different bookmarks within the document. And we have the page viewer option as well, where we can go by thumbnail images of each page to go to a specific page from this view. We have the back and forward as well. So if I hit the back button, since I clicked that bookmark, it will bring us back to the page that I was on when I clicked that bookmark. We can close the side panel by toggling with this button. Okay. We click the ellipsis next to the document. We have the ability to download a local copy of the document that we're reviewing. That will be a copy. Obviously, it will not be the live document in the viewer. And we have the copy link. The copy link is a very useful tool for providing comments. So we see link copied to clipboard. I'm going to open up my Outlook. And I'm going to create a new email. I'm going to send it to myself. And so what I can do is I can send a link to that document and the specific page that I'm on and provide comments and feedback. And when I open that link, it will bring me right back. So any user that has the username and password to WebReview that clicks that link will be brought right back to that section. Okay. All right. One of the other things that we can do is we can go into a full screen view. We can zoom in or out depending on your needs. I'm lucky I have a very big monitor here on my desk, so I don't need to zoom in too much. But you may need to do that. And then to exit that, you can click here. Okay. That concludes the demo portion. And it was pretty quick, but as I mentioned, it's very easy to navigate around. It's very intuitive as far as things like search function and navigating the file tree structure. And the iconography seems to be pretty straightforward. So Danny, I think we had some questions.
Yes, just 1 second. Let me go ahead and switch over the screens. Okay, and before we get to the Q&A, just two more slides I'd like to go through quickly. So what Ryan just showed you with GlobalSubmit WebReview, if you'd like to try GlobalSubmit WebReview, we're offering the attendees on this webinar a 30-day free trial. If this is something that you would like to take advantage of, please let us know in the post-webinar survey. So this is an FYI, at the end of this webinar, there will be a 4-question survey sent out to everyone to answer. So if this is something that you are interested in, please let us know within that survey. And then one more slide before we get to the Q&A. So we spoke a lot about the eCTD software, but here at Certara we do have the eCTD software as well as regulatory operations and eCTD publishing specialists. So we have the best of both worlds. So for that added flexibility, Certara ensures efficient, timely submissions through the GlobalSubmit eCTD software, and then also through our unrivaled team of regulatory operations and eCTD publishing specialists. So without further ado, let me go ahead and get to our questions. So just give me one moment to pull those up in the chat. So it looks like
and while you're doing that, Danny, just to expand a little bit on that services plus software piece. So WebReview is a great tool that's used by our services team. So if they're working on your publication, we'll use WebReview with you so you can review the work that we've done and provide feedback. But also, if you're a software customer, since this is all cloud-based, if you have a need to quickly expand your capabilities and bring on, kind of a SWAT type approach, bring on some extra folks, it's something that's easily scalable, and we can work collaboratively with you in order to accomplish those goals.
Great. No, thank you for that added information, Ryan. We appreciate it. Yep. So it looks like we have gotten a few questions in through the chat. So the first one is WebReview cloud hosted, and how do I access it?
Yes, so WebReview is cloud-based and web-hosted. So you would access it using your web browser. So Safari, Chrome, IE, Edge, all of those currently supported browsers would be how you would access it. Of course, you need to have a username and password for your domain in order to access it.
Okay, thank you for that, Ryan. Another question that just came in through the chat. The question is, what do I have to do to get my documents into WebReview, and how long does it take?
So there are kind of two scenarios there. The first one, if you're using our publishing software, which is GlobalSubmit Publish, once you have created a published output, you'll see it in WebReview immediately in that list where I started the demo. If you're using a different tool or maybe working with us for your publishing, it would get loaded in there, and you would see it in that list when it's been published by our team. Or if you're using a different software, you would go through the validate interface or the GlobalSubmit load tool, and that would be how you would upload it into the cloud. And you can monitor that through the status tab.
Okay. And then another question that just came in, I believe this is in reference to the slide where we are hosting a few of the benefits, specifically in regards to dynamic opening. So the question is, how quickly will WebReview load applications?
Yes, so that is probably one of the biggest differentiators with WebReview. You saw I opened over 2,000 page PDF in seconds. Qualifying that by saying it depends on your internet speed and your local PC and the size of the document or application. But for the most part, that's the kind of performance we would expect to see. So less than a second to open up a large document like that. Because as you mentioned, Danny, it loads dynamically.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And another question around downloading applications. So how can you download the entire application in WebReview?
So if you wanted to just download a specific file, that's something we went over in the demo, you would click the download file from the ellipses. If you wanted to download the entire application for, let's say you want to submit it from the version that you were viewing in WebReview, we use the Cloudberry tool to download files from AWS.
Okay. And then a question came, which I don't know if we touched it at the beginning, but the question is, how can I pull validation reports?
Yeah, we didn't get a chance to go through that, but we do have another component with our web suite, which is Validate. And what Validate does is it takes the version that has been published and loaded into the WebReview platform and runs all of the validation rules against that particular submission and will generate a report so you can view any validation warnings or errors that are generated. Typically, this is done as part of the publishing step. So the publishers will run validate before sending out for reviewers to review, or if they're using our GlobalSubmit publish, that validation is actually happening real time. So they're getting that feedback as they're publishing the documents. And then, of course, they could run the final report at the end just to confirm. This will contain errors and warnings. So some of those warnings may not be applicable, for the submission. So it can be ignored. And that's where we would expect that the expertise of the publishers to kind of provide that feedback, not necessarily a external or internal stakeholder that's going to be performing review inside a WebReview.
Sure. Okay, and we have another question that came in. Can multiple people be in WebReview at the same time reviewing an application?
Yes. So this is not a situation where you can only have one person logged in at a time or one person in a particular document at a time. You can have as many people as you need reviewing it concurrently.
Okay, and then there's just another question around licensing. So how is this license, WebReview?
So this is a named user license. So we would need a list of users, and we would create accounts for those users at the organization.
Okay. And then I know we're getting to the top of the hour at our top of 30 minutes. So this will be the last question. Any questions that came in that we didn't get to, we will be following up with you later on today. So it's the last question for the webinar today is in regards to searching. So what can you search in WebReview?
Yeah, so you can search within the tree itself. I think I went over that in the demo for a specific title or section number. You can also search the text within each document from the inventory viewer.
Okay. Thank you for answering those questions, Ryan, and thank you for doing today's presentation, and thank you to the audience as well for attending today's presentation on GlobalSubmit WebReview. This will conclude our presentation.